Hi, my name's Zoisa, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about kinesiology and my experience of it. I first became interested or learned about kinesiology when I went to a talk on hormone health, and I thought, this sounds really interesting. I was going through some illnesses, and after an operation to remove a cancerous mole. And then previous to that, I'd had an operation to remove a fibroid, a large fibroid, so I'd had a C-section. And having had those, both of those operations, and being somebody who was fairly fit and healthy, immune system was fine, I then found that after, particularly the C-section, after I'd had that and I'd had to be put on to drugs that had to stop my period to help the fibroid shrink for about 3 months before the operation. By the time I'd had the operation, then I had to wait for my natural cycle to kick in and start again. I found my bleeding was a little bit heavier than before, and the colour and consistency had changed. I then found that actually out of a 12-week period, there were actually only about maybe 3 to 4 of those weeks where I actually felt really well and had energy. I had kind of throat, not infections, but my throat would feel tight, and then I would have constant colds or coughs. And I just wasn't quite right. And I went for loads of blood tests and they all came back normal. And then I would feel lightheaded and dizzy quite frequently if I got up too quickly. I had low blood pressure anyway, and always have had low blood pressure, but it's always been on the borderline. And I just wasn't feeling like me. And no matter what tests, and I kept going to the doctors and they were like, no, everything's fine, everything's normal, we can't see anything. And then I started to have a chat with some of my friends, as you do. And one of them had said about they'd had nasal drip. And so I then contacted my doctor again, and then I looked at an ear, nose, throat specialist, and they looked down my throat and they said, well, there's a little bit of inflammation, but here, have some, get some of the squirty stuff that you can put kind of up your nose or down your throat. So I had that to try and numb out that itchiness and irritation. And then I slowly, after investigation myself, I discovered that it was in fact nasal drip. So it's like there was mucus that was running down through my nose that I wasn't aware of. And some of that actually came from pollen or dust, things in the air. So actually my body was becoming was more sensitive to normal household things, and it was just setting a whole chain reaction of different events. And then I found this hormone talk by Balanced Wellness. Went for the talk, was fascinating, I loved it, and I was like, all this time, the fibroids, things that I was learning about my body, and actually there were little symptoms and signs and signals that actually things weren't quite right, that I was totally unaware of, or I just turn that dial down, so because I needed to kind of keep going and carry on with whatever. But the major traumas of having the operations had actually kind of like made the volume bigger. My moods were shifting and changing. I'd actually been put into kind of menopause by having the medication to stop my period. So it's like my whole system was kind of like shocked, and just was not coming back online as it was supposed to. And so having discovered all these different things about the endocrine system and the menopause, and then I wanted to know more, I wanted to learn more, and that got me into Touch for Health, which is foundation kinesiology. And there you learn, kinesiology is muscle testing. And so you would test and you learn the 42 different muscles of the body and how they're actually connected through my little skeleton fabia. You have these introverted foramina, IVF, which are these little holes that your nerve endings kind of come through from the spine, and they send signals to the organs and the muscles. So if there's any imbalance in the system, then that muscle would unlock. And so the body's then giving that communication to the practitioner of there's an imbalance here. The imbalance is either too much energy or not enough energy. And then you would use tracing the meridians through the body. If there's pain in the body, that's often an over energy. So we can work with, again, with meridians or with neurolymphatic points, so points in the body which you would rub. Or if it's that there's emotional stuff going on, there are neurolymphatic points, so places where we can hold on the head to help rebalance those energies and put more energy in so the body's supported. And I love that there was this whole connection, and for me it really made sense. So as a Pilates instructor, coach, and working with massage and Reiki, it kind of, for me, pulled everything together, and it worked in all these different realms, we call them, or avenues. So it's like if your doorway is physical, so if you do physical stuff and you're in physical pain, then it's like the kinesiology can help. If you are going through emotional challenges, or just, you know, how do I deal with those emotions? What do I do with those emotions? It's stuff that's happened in the past, but it keeps affecting what I'm doing now. There were tools to help with learning that you can do. I had a client who was, after qualifying from my Touch for Health, who had to go in for a heart operation, and then who'd had a stroke. So it was fantastic because I was able to incorporate some of the tools and techniques of kinesiology into that Pilates movement session to be able to kind of help her, okay, let's get the brain switched on and firing, make sure those meridians are actively working, so that you can actually support the body on all levels, so structural, physical level, emotional level, mindset, also the electrical, because it's like that heart, it's electrics that help activate the heart and get the body moving, how the body communicates cell to cell. It's like that is electrical, acupuncture, that works on the electrical field, meridians, and then also the biochemicals, so nutrition, what you put into your body, what you put onto your body. It all has a massive effect. And then I then went and did my practitioner training, and we look at the triangle of health, just like we did in the Touch for Health. The difference is we look at blood sugars, and we look at stressors, and we look at hormones. And I've not come across any of that, and I was fascinated in how the link between particularly kind of hormone health, and that's not just kind of like estrogen, progesterone, it's like, well, we have stress hormones. Hormones are like the chemical messengers that help our body operate. It's like the mailman that sends the signals to make sure that all your different processes, physiological processes, the ones that keep you alive, that happen with your unconscious, are all doing their job. But if anything's kind of out of kilter, then again, we can actually help balance that and work with that with kinesiology. And I love that. And it was fascinating to see how in my own clients, when they'd been moving and exercises, often they'd be making some real progress, and then all of a sudden it would either plateau or they would seem to go backwards. And I'm like, well, we're doing the same movements and exercise. What else is going on? Or we'd have the opposite. So I do the movements and the physical things that I know that would kind of get the body into gear, and it would kind of make a difference. And then it's like that difference wasn't sustained and it wasn't holding. And I'm like, well, why is that? I love to ask the question, why? And it is kind of like that putting together that puzzle and helping people find out why, and make those connections for themselves and get to understand and know themselves. And that is something that is important in the kinesiology sessions. So, and as it is for me in my Pilates sessions, it's not just you come along and you move and you wave your arms and legs around. It's like, no, and there's a self-responsibility in there. So my role is to kind of coach, guide and educate you. And then your role is to really begin to understand more about your body, why are these happening? So that then when because you're only with me for an hour, if it's a Pilates class, so how you begin to decipher what is going on, what do I need to change? And, when your blood sugar levels are imbalanced, there are certain muscles that, they could be over-energized or under-energized, in which case, every time you go to do that movement, it's like the ability of the muscle to kind of like stay activated, it can't sustain it. And again, blending in the melt method that I do, it's like your muscles and the cellular communication and all that connectivity happens within the fascial environment. And so the more we can create a nurturing, thriving environment for the whole cell-to-cell communication, and for our systems to kind of be online rather than be cluttered like a room full of loads of stuff and then you don't know where it all is. It's like that internal environment is reflected on the outside, and you can either come at it through the doorway of Pilates and movement, or you can come at it through the doorway of massage or Reiki or dance or kinesiology. So I love the fact that with all the things that I'm learning, it's like there are different doorways and avenues in, but it is definitely about a whole body approach to health, fitness and well-being. And I'm currently doing a postgraduate diploma in integrative medicine, and loving how learning the different modalities and different visions and Chinese or Ayurvedic or traditional African, it's like, how do all of these different health and healing and medical modalities, how do you help the body? Because there is no one fix, and there isn't a fix. It's a continuous journey of, what does my body need? We listen, we learn, we grow. But with all of this information, then I can either direct people in another direction, or it just gives more depth to really learning, well, what can I do to help me? And I think everybody really wants to be able to help themselves, but the knowledge isn't always out there, or you having a chat to that medical person or the doctor. And it's like, why don't they seem to understand what I'm trying to say to them? And I love that how with everything that I'm learning and all the knowledge that I get to, assist people. So it's like, this is how you can communicate, and this is where we need to go. And you don't have to wait till the result shows up in a blood test, or the body's in so much chronic pain. It's like part of a journey and a scale. There are signs and symptoms, and we can get those imbalances before you're into the chronic pain or the frozen shoulder. But if you have had an injury or something that a break, or had to have an operation because of wear and tear and arthritis or whatever it is, then I'm able to assist on a variety of different levels to help with the recovery and rehabilitation. So if you're interested and want to find out more or experience a session of kinesiology, please do get in touch with me.